I just woke up to an email that was like, oh, I know this is awkward, but this is Wale. And I tried to send you a DM on Twitter, but you're not following me. I have an idea, something that I want you to work on. So if you could please DM me your info. This is all in an email.
Yeah, check it out. I'm your host, Corey Cambridge. Yeah. Everybody tuning in, you invited. No matter what mood you in, get excited. Everybody love the music, let me tell you how they do it. Whether writer or an agent, let me tell you how they made it. You are now talking to a silent giant. Wanna walk in their shoes, silent giants. Wanna study they moves, silent giants. Wanna know what they do, silent giants. Silent giants, y'all.
Welcome to the Silent Giants Podcast, a podcast highlighting the superstars behind your favorite superstars in creative industries. I'm your host, Corey Cambridge. To keep up with the latest from the show, be sure to subscribe to the show and follow us on Instagram at Silent Giants Podcast. To keep up with my life, music, and more, be sure to follow me as well on Instagram at Corey Cambridge. Today on the show, we have a very special guest, illustrator Princess Spencer, aka PSIMDOPE, the silent giant behind Wale's Ambition album cover. In this episode, Princess chats about her career as an illustrator, getting her first big break with hip-hop producer Ninth Wonder, and the making of Wale's Ambition album cover. So without further ado, let me introduce you guys to the illustrator, my friend, the silent giant, Princess Spencer.
Princess, what's up? What's going on?
Getting on my nerves.
My bad. How are you?
I'm fine.
So let's get right into the interview. So, Princess, where are you from?
I am from Virginia, small town Martinsville.
Martinsville, the Martinsville Raceway. Wait,
Martinsville Speedway.
Speedway. My bad. I'm not
right.
I'm not a NASCAR guy.
Well, I ain't either, but I know that.
Give me some credit though.
No.
You should know. You're from Martinsville.
We ain't got two. You can't really mess that up.
Okay, touche.
You only got one.
Touche. And so, Princess, how did you first get into, what are your earliest memories of getting into art and illustration?
I'd always have drawn. My father is an artist, or he draws too. But yeah, I've always drawn since I was little. It was like a natural thing. It wasn't like something where I was like, I didn't do it or I picked it up and it just happened to be a thing. It was like the natural thing to do when I grabbed a pencil.
Do you remember the first piece of art you created?
No, but my aunt still has this picture of. My aunt is a poet, she's like a mail carrier lady. She still has this picture I drew of her getting chased by a dog. I don't know why. That was and she still has it for whatever reason. And she's like, I still need you to sign it. And I'm like, what are you gonna do with this? What? That's the earliest picture I can think of because I know that she still has it. Now, if I've drawn something before that, I have no idea. But I know that picture still exists and it still looks brand new.
And what age was this?
Oh, child. Probably 7 or 8.
Okay.
I hope. I don't know. My skill levels, I could have been 5,
So imagine having Picasso's first work at 5.
That's not the same. This is not the same. What I do is not the same. Ain't no Picasso's.
You don't know what? You don't know where
no Picasso's in VA.
You don't know. Picasso didn't get his shine until he was dead.
Well, I want my flowers now.
I prefer that. You know what I mean? And so, what was the turning point for you, as far as being an artist? When did you know that you wanted to follow it as a career?
I went through my phase of I want to do this. So once I got to middle school, it's ooh, I'm gonna be a fashion designer, which I was trash at. I would just find pictures in JCPenney catalogs and I would trace over them and then just change the outfits. So that was a failed career move. And then I wanted to be a songwriter. Because I love me some Britney Spears. This is before I listened to hip-hop music, so don't judge me. But yeah, I was I was going to be me. I was going to be a songwriter. That didn't really work out. And then when I got to high school, I was in choir, drama, like I was in all of that stuff, but I stopped doing art as much and just focused on like the music-based stuff because at the time, I really did love to sing. Like, it was my thing. I loved being able to, like, sight read and all that stuff. And then, like, towards the end of my junior year of high school, I was like, I'm not happy singing. Like, I'm not happy doing this. So, but I did still love my art class. I had the same art teacher from my freshman year all the way up until I graduated. She even let me take, like, extra art classes that we weren't supposed to be able to take. I guess I got more into it towards like the end of my junior year, and I was like, maybe this is something I should pursue, seeing as how I didn't really know what I was gonna go to college for anyway.
Tell me like your career after high school.
I mean, I went to college at VCU for a little bit.
And tell me about your experience at VCU.
It was trash.
Oh, why was it trash?
It was so trash. Their art program at the time, I can't really speak to what it is now, but it just wasn't beneficial to an artist as an individual. Like, it only would be beneficial to people who come from like a background where they actually did like art history and like art studies while they were in high school. My art classes in high school were like maybe 80% about doing the art and 20% about the reason behind doing it. Like, it was, you can look like I couldn't really name you too many artists other than the same ones that everybody else already knows. So I didn't really learn a lot while I was in high school. Not that my teacher was horrible. She was like the best teacher I've ever had in my life. But that wasn't the focus. It was just like, you come in here, you do this art. I'm going to teach you the technique. The reason behind whoever did it first is irrelevant. It's just about making it your own. So, but when it came to being at VCU, it was like, you have to take these 4 classes, regardless of what your actual skill set is. You need to be able to show us that you can do these 4 things. And with one of the classes, I mean, most of my classes that I had a really, easy time passing. Like my drawing studio class, obviously I got an A. But my surface research class was the worst. Like my first experience with it, I ended up like having to withdraw from it because I used to have like anxiety attacks all the time. So I wasn't even in class long enough to actually I wasn't in class long enough to do enough assignments to even get a grade for the class. So I had to withdraw from it. But the second time I took it, my teacher, she was an abstract artist, and for her, it was everything you do has to be abstract.
Okay.
Every single thing. Now, we even had an assignment once where she was like, if I look at it and I can see it and it looks like something, then you're not going to pass. Like, I'm going to give you a passing grade. I can look at clouds and see stuff. I can look at the wood on the floor and like see some sort of shape or thing. So it's just like, for me, it was hard because every time I would look at the piece that I was working on at the time, I could see stuff. Right. So it was like, well, I know I'm not going to get, a good grade on this, but she had some sort of vendetta against me anyway. Cause I think I only got a passing grade on 2 assignments.
Do you think that college for art, can kind of stifle you creatively?
No. No. Cause I think that the benefit was, especially with my drawing studio classes, that I would have never had access to being able to draw with like live models. And even though I didn't get to like declare a major or take any art classes past that, the teacher that I had taught me a lot about, facial structures and like muscles and all things like that. Like, I remember my first day or like my first week of classes, I ended up bringing in a picture that I was working on to take to homecoming. Of Pharrell, and I had brought it with me to class, and like in between, like when we would take breaks, I would work on that. So he happened to see me drawing, and he came over and was like, do you mind if I show you like, places you can improve or things you can add on to it? So, I mean, that class was a benefit for me, but my advisor, she just saw the road that it was going down, and she was just like, you don't need to be here. Like, it's not beneficial for you. She said it, and a lot of students who had already declared majors and they were like, on the course of like graduating from the arts program, even they said like, if VCU didn't require people to take these 4 set classes, that I probably would have been able to, I would have been on the road to graduating early just based off of how my work was already set up. They were like, your skill level is already to the point where you shouldn't have to take these 4 classes, but you have to. And she told me, she was like, you don't need this. You're not, her exact words from, in my mind, it sounded like something that would come from a person of color, but she wasn't. And she was like, you're not going to conform to the system. And I was like, what the system? What is the system? Okay, girl, I got you. The man. But she was just like, you're not going to conform to this, to what this is set. And she's like, I wouldn't tell you to, and you shouldn't. She's like, you should just do something else. So I was like, okay. And I just dropped out.
But I feel like there's a thing with like sticking in school as an artist and how it can like limit you creatively. Because when I think about the artists that I love, they all kind of left school. And it also doesn't teach you like the entrepreneurial aspect of art.
Not at all.
And I think that's a key component. Now that you're out of VCU, what was the next step for you? Like, what happened?
Well, after I left VCU, like not even a month or 2 afterwards, I got like a DM from Ninth Wonder on Twitter asking me if a picture I drew of him like months prior that I gave to him at a Students of Hip Hop event at UVA. He was like, can I use this for my album cover? And I'm like, sure. Like, why would I tell you no? He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pay you for it. And I was like, what? Okay, let's do that then. And that was by September of the same year that I left VCU. I want to say this is 2011. September 27th, I think, is when the album came out. Since probably my senior year of high school, what I just started doing, which it seemed to make the most sense to me, was I would draw like these large scale like portraits, like huge ones of whatever show. Because at the time, like I'm in high school, I'm broke, I don't have a car, I didn't get my license until I was like 20. So they had like this free concert in North Carolina that my uncle took me and my cousins to. So I drew this huge picture. Well, I drew a whole bunch of like the people who were performing that day. And I got to go backstage. I got to meet all these people. I got to be on the radio. So to me, it was like, okay, let's see if we can do this again next year. Like, let's see how often I can, do this. Maybe this just be my thing. So I just kept doing it, over and over again. Then when I got to VCU, I did the same thing with the picture I drew of Pharrell. I gave that I drew one of him, Shay, and Chad for VCU's 2009 homecoming. And they wanted to meet me, so we took a picture together. They put it up on the BBC website. I got to meet his mom, which was so crazy because it was my freshman year, but for whatever reason, they all thought I had already graduated.
Okay.
She was like, so when did you graduate? Or how long have you been an alumni? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Alumni high school?
I'm a good 5 months in, ma'am. I catch you on the flip side, but so when it came to the 9th, it was along the same thing, but that was when Twitter started popping. So I would post all of the pictures, whether I gave them to the person or not. I would post them, the pictures on Twitter, and this was before Instagram and all that stuff existed. So it was just like, see how many people will retweet it or repost it. I miss those days when the internet wasn't oversaturated with people sharing that stuff.
When it was new?
He happened to, I know he retweeted it because that's how he ended up following me. And then, of course, that's when I saw that he was going to do the lecture at UVA. So me and a whole bunch of my friends drove out to UVA. I took the picture with me. He was like, signing, stuff, whatever people brought up to him. So I was like rolled up and I sat it in front of him and he was like, what is this? And I was like, you asked for it. And he was just like, he unrolls it and like, he's just like, he turns to Rhapsody and he was like, this is it. This is the picture. This is the one we were talking about. And so that's how that whole thing came about, which is like months later, his album and stuff was coming. Like I knew of him as a producer, but for a lot of people or some of the people that I have drawn before everybody kind of blew up all at once, I was just picking people that I knew the names sound familiar who were going to be close, and I would worry about their music, like listening to them or getting to know who they actually were after the fact, because it was like that's the irrelevant part for me. It's like I just need to make a contact with this person, or I need this person to see my artwork. I need them to post it so I can get followers, so I can figure out what I'm going to do because I wasn't selling prints or anything like that at the time anyway. But yeah, that's how. So yeah.
And so tell me the story of how he reached out to you.
Oh yeah. So yeah, after I dropped out, this was because the album came out in September. So this was May. Yeah. So this was May. He DM'd me on Twitter and literally was like, do you, I'm working on an album. Can I use this art? Like the picture that you drew of me for my cover, I look at it every day. Like it speaks to what, my project is supposed to be about. And I'm like, of course. Like, I'm at this point, I'm not going to say no, regardless of whether he paid me or not. It'd be the most attention I ever got doing something. So I was like, yeah, go ahead. So then I just had to wait, until it officially got put out. Cause I wasn't the one who edited, somebody else added all the extra, stuff to it. But I did draw it. It was just like a charcoal drawing on newsprint. Like it was just like something that really like fairly inexpensive.
Okay.
Just ended up just being a thing. So yeah, he used it for that cover. And those first couple of years, like those first 2 or 3 years, like dealing with Ninth and like kind of being around him and his team, it helped me a lot because he was very like hands-on with like believing in the talent and the people that he kept around him and like helping to build them up or putting them in the right space to meet the type of people. Because I'd never been out of Virginia. Well, North Carolina don't count. But I had never been out of Virginia before, like, working on this project. So
tell me, after Ninth Wonder, how the opportunity with Wale came about to do the Ambition cover.
So yeah, so the day after the release, I just woke up to an email that was like, "Oh, I know this is awkward, but this is Wale, and I tried to send you a DM on Twitter, but you're not following me. I have an idea, something that I want you to work on. So if you could please DM me your info. This is all in an email." So I'm just in my mind, I'm like, why can't I just respond to the email?
Right. So you're gonna email. You got to email to DM him.
No, I have to don't even respond to the email. You got to go on Twitter, follow him, and then because this is before like you could send DMs to people you don't follow. So it was like, no, I had to go back to what he wanted me to do literally was to log into Twitter, follow him, and DM him my response to what would have been my response to the email.
Okay.
Like instead of just hitting reply on the email, just no, Twitter is where you should go. So we end up getting on the phone and he's like, I'm working on my album. My album comes out in November. This is the name of it. I don't even think like a part of the conversation was that he had seen obviously he'd seen my work, but I to this day don't exactly know who or where, like the contact information. I don't even know how, all of that came about. But he was like, yeah, the label had worked on, had the internal team, work on all of these covers. He didn't like any of them. He was like, but I feel like you can get my vision out. So I'm going to send you like my idea if you can just knock it out. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, oh, you have until noon. And I'm like, bruh, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. What you mean I got until noon? So I busted out like 4 sketches and then I sent them. And then, cause I think people just forget that stuff you have to do on paper is not the same as what you do on a computer. So no, I can't go back and change the color of something. I have to draw it all the way over or edit it in Photoshop. But for the specific project that we were working on, one of the pictures that didn't get chosen, he literally wanted me to change like the color of the shoes. I'm like, I can't do that. Like it's not that I wouldn't, but I can't. Like,
right.
Even changing like little stuff like changing the type of shoes. Like these are things that can't really be done on paper. And this was like early stage. I had probably only been using like Photoshop for like 2 years, and I had definitely I didn't use Illustrator until what ended up being the next day, which was for Currency. But so I was like, I'm just busting out all of this artwork, and then it gets past noon and I'm like, I don't know, like it's not really working. So lo and behold, they had like a whole archive of like images, and I'm like, well, y'all you send me these in the first place. So I just went through and picked one and just started sketching out as much as I could. And like 8 o'clock at night, I'm like, listen, this is what I have. Just show this to them. I'm going to finish it overnight. I'll send you the final one in the morning if that's cool. He's like, yeah. So the next morning I send it to him, like, did you get my email? And he was like, oh, we already sent the artwork to the label that you sent us last night. It's already been approved. And I'm like, it's not even finished. What are you talking about? So the actual Ambition cover is an unfinished piece.
Really?
Yeah. Like which kind of sucks because obviously I have the original still, but it looks nothing like what the final one looks like because so now technically my art looks like fan art because I finished it like right after I guess that he sent it to the label. But yeah, so if you look close, you can tell it's not finished. Like his ear is like purple and blue. Like it's not even colored in. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I saw, how many people like loved the cover art the way that it was. And it was like, oh, it's like a metaphor for, being an unfinished. And I'm like, oh, it's really just unfinished. So it's cool. It's cool. Y'all go ahead and rock with it. Take it and do what you must.
And what was the experience like and the feeling? Post.
To be honest, I didn't even know how it was going to turn out. Like after I sent it, of course I sent them just like, an unfinished piece, but I didn't know how they were going to take it and edit it and add text and all these things like that after the fact. So I actually found out the same day the rest of the internet found out. Like when, when they changed their website and they started putting all the ads and stuff out, I found out with the whole rest of the internet was like, oh, those whole like because the album was coming out on November 11th, 2011. So it was like the 11/11 thing. So like, oh, at 11/11, the website will be relaunched, for Ambition. You can get your pre-orders. I'm like, okay. I'm on the phone with my friend and we're both like on like speakerphone, like waiting for the site to drop. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Like it was overwhelming for me because so many people were posting about it. It would have been dope, I guess, to get more credit for the work that I did. Like as far as, obviously I've done, I've talked to people and done like interviews and stuff about the artwork, but I remember like the Maybach music group like tweeting out, oh, who do you think did the cover art? And so many of my friends were responding to it, like trying, answering the question, saying, oh, like knowing who did it. And they never like just told, like, it wasn't a question that they were going to eventually give you the answer to. Gotcha. It was like, we're just going to put this question out there just so we can get, some traffic.
Yeah.
But we're not going to tell y'all who actually did it though. So, at the time I was like, I was like low key, like a little disappointed, but I realized that like there's so many artists who, once you get like in the industry or you work specifically at a label, you don't get the recognition for the artwork that you do unless you're working with an artist who cares 100% about what it is you do, like how Logic is with Sam Spratt and like all the covers that he does for him. Like, he even tells him to put himself in the artwork. So, Logic has him doing all these pieces and like somewhere in the landscape of whatever it is, Sam Spratt like is a character within that whole set. So I guess it just depends on like the type of people you kind of have around you. But at this point, especially after working like in the industry and like technically like in a corporate environment, you're not going, like if you as an artist and you want to work, for a label or a magazine or like some company, like you just have to go into it knowing and or thinking that you're not going to get, your name is not going to be on anything that you do. Even if it is, you're the most irrelevant part of the scenario. Like, especially when it comes to like, illustration is a little different, but specifically as a graphic designer, you are here to do the work. You're not here to get the recognition for it.
That's the whole point of the podcast. That is the entire point. And so as far as like the X's and O's in the business of kind of being an entrepreneur, because you're an entrepreneur, you're a freelancer.
Yeah.
Like what things have you learned along the way?
Don't do any art. Don't do nothing without a deposit. If you feel like you can trust the company or the individual that you're working on, for them to not give you one, at least don't do it until you have a contract or it's something in some sort of something in writing, even if it's like a text message conversation. Like just don't do, or you know, if you're having a phone call with these people, record it. Like, you need to have some sort of way of backing up, you know, the he said, she said of everything that you deal with. Because I've had a few times, definitely more than one, where it wasn't, I can't even say like, it wasn't the label specifically. That's the downside to working directly with, like, when artists hit you up, like, you know, rappers or whoever hit you up directly, or even their managers, when these people hit you up directly versus the like them hitting you up and having somebody from the label on it, or the label hitting you up directly, is that these people don't care. Like, the money aspect of it doesn't affect them at all. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna ask you to do this artwork, and then we're gonna send you the contract after you already done it, and it's gonna be like super low. Like, I remember one album cover that I did, which I'm not gonna say who it was for, that the contract had in it, they were gonna pay me $450 for the complete rights to all of my artwork. Like, all of it, all the rights. First off, $450, mind you, because I've worked with a lot, well, I can't say a lot, but I've worked with definitely a few people who are signed to major labels and or independent labels that can afford to pay more than $450. If I see you on the streets and I know your sneakers are worth more than $450, then this is not how this works. And it ended up being like, you know, a back and forth between me and the label, because they needed to get me to sign the contract in time before the album came out. You can't put the album out and make money off of it without, you know, making sure everything is already paid for, because then I could have sued them for still using it, even though I technically could have been suing them anyway, because they used it far before I even knew, before I even got a contract, they were already using it. So but I know that I know two people through that we follow each other, or we had conversations through Instagram, because they've seen some of the work that I've done for certain artists, and they've technically done work for them too. And they were like, yeah, I worked on this artwork. And I'm like, so if they didn't use it, you got paid for it, right? And they were like, I'm supposed to still get paid for it. And I'm like, yes, that's what it, you know, that's the other thing, is like, if you're working for an artist, at least, you know, see if, and or make sure that in your contract there's like a termination or a kill fee, you know, clause or like section of your contract. So if they don't use your artwork, you still get paid for it.
Okay.
A lot of artists just need to stop being happy for opportunities and start trying to be happy for making money off of, you know, out of being able to work with these people. Because to be honest, there's no guarantee that this person's ever going to hit you up again asking you for artwork. There's not a guarantee they're going to tell people about you, and there's not a guarantee that you're ever going to see them again or that they'll remember your name. So if you're going to be out there, you might as well just be out there, you know, at least being able to say you were able to pay your rent for the month. Not that you have screenshots of a conversation that took place 4 months ago.
Right.
That shows this person has at least acknowledged that you exist. So for me, it's just like, just make sure you know, P's and Q's, you know, just make sure you have a contract or a deposit before you start on something. Even if you haven't signed the contract, at least look through it and see how much you're supposed to get paid. If you don't give your own price, obviously. But yeah, every opportunity is not worth it.
Say no more. Say no more. Princess, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Peace out.